Viewers, the world has had a very different response to US's tariffs that were imposed just yesterday. Now, Canada has also announced a strong response to the US tariffs, with Prime Minister Mark Carney declaring 25% counter tariffs on all US vehicles that do not comply with CUSMA. This move comes after the US imposed similar tariffs on Canadian goods, including a 10% tariff on energy exports. What's next for the two economies is something that needs to be watched out for. Keep listening to our report that gets you all the details into Canada and US's tariff versus tariff.
After US President Donald Trump levied a series of tariffs on Canada, Prime Minister Mark Carnet has now vowed to retaliate to tariffs with purpose and with force. Carney has declared that Canada will now be matching US's 25% auto tariffs on vehicles imported from United States.
And today I'm announcing that the Government of Canada will be responding by matching the U.S. approach, with 25% tariffs on all vehicles imported from the United States that are not compliant with CUSMA, our North American Free Trade Agreement, and on the non-Canadian content of CUSMA-compliant vehicles from the United States as well.
Second time in weeks, Carney pushed his federal election campaign to respond to the latest import taxes from Washington. While Trump didn't take a direct shot at Canada during his Liberation Day announcement, analysts have projected that the 25% auto tariffs are set to hit Canada the hardest.
Given the prospective damage to their own people, the American administration should eventually change course. But I don't want to give false hope. The President believes that what he is doing is best for the American economy. He believes that it's best for American workers. And although their policy will hurt American families, until that pain becomes impossible to ignore, I do not believe they will change direction.
While much of the American tariff scheme on Canada is set to stay the same, a blanket 25% on all goods. Earlier last month, Trump had slapped a 10% additional tariff on energy from Canada on account of the cross-border export of drugs and immigrants from the north.
While US President Donald Trump is selling the promise of Wonderland in the US with his new tariff war, European Union partners are angry over the betrayal of their once trusted ally. Mincing no words, French President Emmanuel Macron has called out Trump's tactics as brutal and unfounded. He has in fact also given a clarion call to the European Union industry leaders by saying, do not invest in the US economy. Here's what's brewing in Paris. Take a look.
President Trump has followed through with his reciprocal tariffs promise, but with a discounted twist.
On foreign-made automobiles, the European Union charges us more than 10% tariffs, and they have 20% VATs, much higher. India charges 70%, and perhaps worst of all are the non-monetary restrictions imposed by South Korea, Japan, and very many other nations as a result of these, and they let it happen to an extent that nobody can even believe. That's why, effective at midnight, we will impose a 25% tariff on all foreign-made automobiles.
The biggest hit of the reciprocal tariff war has come to the US's European allies.
Il était important que nous puissions nous retrouver le plus rapidement possible après les annonces de la nuit dernière du président Trump, qui sont un choc pour le commerce international, pas simplement pour l'Union européenne, la France, mais au fond pour le bon fonctionnement du commerce.
In a complete state of panic, French President Emmanuel Macron held an emergency meeting with French industry leaders to discuss the repercussions of the tariff war.
Et donc, on le voit bien, c'est un impact massif qui va toucher tous les secteurs de l'économie et de l'export européen. Alors, avec un enjeu pour la France qui est plus limité que pour certains autres pays, enfin qui est là, et qui pour certaines filières va être massif.
Calling Trump administration's tariffs brutal and unfounded, Macron has vowed to not be naive and respond in kind.
L'objectif, c'est évidemment nous qu'on apporte une réponse, mais avec un terme à tout cela, c'est que par la négociation, on arrive évidemment à démonter les tarifs qui ont été annoncés ces dernières semaines et en particulier ces dernières heures, et que nous, on démonte les nôtres. Nous sommes, voyons, dans la vertu du commerce. Simplement, on n'est pas naïf, donc on va se protéger.
In a clear rebuke to the United States, Macron asked the European companies not to invest in the US economy.
C'est important, et c'est tout le travail qu'il faut faire par filière, que les investissements à venir ou que les investissements annoncés ces dernières semaines, ils soient un temps suspendus tant qu'on n'a pas clarifié les choses avec les États-Unis d'Amérique. Parce que quel serait le message d'avoir des grands acteurs européens qui se mettent à investir des milliards d'euros dans l'économie américaine au moment où ils sont en train de nous taper? Donc il faut qu'on ait de la solidarité collective.
Whether Macron will follow through remains to be seen, but the French president has clearly signaled an impending retaliation to the US's tariff war.